I died in the 7th year of loving Khloe Davis. As the kidnapper's knife plunged into my body, I shakily dialed her number. Khloe, help me. But the voice on the other end was cold and indifferent. So, are you calling with good news? Good riddance. With that, he ruthlessly hung up. I closed my eyes against the searing pain. In the final moment of my life, I thought, if I get a next life, I will never love Khloe Davis again. When I opened my eyes again, Khloe was sitting right beside me. She leaned in, trying to get closer, but I shoved her away forcefully. Khloe stumbled back onto the bed, her face hardening as she asked, Ethan, what the hell is wrong with you now? I ignored her, grabbing my phone to check the date. I had been reborn to the time just after Khloe and I had gotten married. For a moment, my mind went completely blank. Before I could process anything, Khloe's phone rang. Khloe, when are you coming to get me? Didn't you promise you'd take me to the movies? A familiar voice drifted from the speaker. Hearing Liam Carter's voice, Khloe murmured soothingly to him as she quickly got up and dressed. I'll be right there. I finally snapped out of it and grabbed her wrist, my voice still trembling slightly. Khloe, give me 20 minutes. I have something very important to do. Khloe frowned, yanking her hand away. What now? You demanded I sleep with you before I could see Liam. I did my part. Are you going back on your word? No. I took a deep breath and said, word by word, Khloe, I want a divorce. Khloe froze for a second, then let out a cold laugh. Ethan, what kind of game are you playing this time? I'm not playing games. This time, I'm serious about divorcing you. With that, I pulled out my phone, my fingers flying across the screen as I sent a message to my lawyer. After sending it, I turned the screen to her so she could see the cold, hard text. Mr. Jackson, I want a divorce. Draft the papers for me immediately. Khloe stared at the message, her eyes narrowing slightly. I looked at her, the face I had loved for so many years, and seeing it now felt like a knife twisting in my heart. I had loved Khloe Davis for 20 years. Ever since kindergarten, I trailed after her like a shadow she couldn't shake. But Khloe never gave me the time of day, always walking ahead with a stone-faced expression, never sparing me so much as a glance. Too many guys at school liked her, and I was too clueless to know how to get her attention, so I resorted to antagonizing her in every way I could think of. When it was her turn for cleaning duty, I'd throw trash in her section. When she gave a speech, I'd be in the audience making faces to distract her. When she played basketball, I'd secretly let the air out of her bike tires. Over time, we became the school's most notorious frenemies. I figured that even if Khloe didn't like me, at least she wouldn't like anyone else. Just being able to see her every day was enough for me. I thought things would go on like that forever, but that illusion was shattered the day Liam Carter showed up. I'll never forget that rainy afternoon. I was walking home from school like any other day when I saw my father with his arm shamelessly wrapped around a strange woman, a boy my age standing beside them. He brought the mother and son into our home and told my mother defiantly, "This is my first love. I was nobody back then, and my family forced us apart. Now that I've made something of myself, I have to fulfill this dream. Even though she's had a child with another man, I'm divorcing you to marry her." Every word was final, leaving no room for negotiation. My mother, who loved my father to death, cried the entire night. At dawn, when no one was looking, she jumped from the roof of our apartment building. Before a week had even passed since my mother's death, my father eagerly moved his first love into our home. From that day on, I hated my father, I hated his first love, and most of all, I hated my new stepbrother, Liam. But I never imagined the most painful betrayal was still to come. I went to the library to find Khloe, only to see her sitting in a corner with Liam. She was leaning on his shoulder, gently kissing the corner of his mouth. In that instant, my world came crashing down. Later, when Grandpa Davis fell gravely ill, he forced Khloe to marry me. After we were married, Khloe accidentally found the thousands of sketches I'd drawn of her, finally realizing I'd been in love with her for years. But instead of being moved, she became convinced I had manipulated her grandfather into forcing the marriage. From that point on, our marriage became a war zone. When Khloe hired a plane for a skywriting message for Liam, I smashed her limited edition sports car. When Khloe took Liam on vacation, I had every hotel in the city refuse them service. When Khloe threw Liam a massive birthday party, I filled the cake with cockroaches and centipedes. Eventually, we reached an agreement. Khloe could see Liam, but for every time she did, she had to sleep with me. "Khloe," I'd said, "let's just torture each other for the rest of our lives." I smiled brightly, but inside, my heart was being torn apart. Only I knew that this mutual torture was just an excuse because I loved her too much to let her go. But it took dying once for me to finally understand that some love is doomed from the start. So this time I'm letting go. I'm letting Khloe, Liam, and all the soul-crushing pain disappear from my life for good. Soon, a sharply dressed lawyer entered the room. Mr. Miller, Ms. Davis, here is the divorce agreement. The lawyer placed the file on the table. Please look it over. Khloe knew I was crazy about her and didn't believe for a second I wanted a divorce. She was just sitting back, waiting to see how I'd back out of this. But to her surprise, I immediately signed my name without a moment's hesitation. A flicker of shock crossed her face. She snatched the agreement, her eyes scanning the terms. Division of assets, stock allocation, every single detail was laid out in black and white. Ethan, her voice was strained. Are you serious? I turned to face her, a mocking smile playing on my lips. Of course. What's the matter? Is the great CEO of the Davis family having second thoughts? Second thoughts. Khloe laughed as if I'd told a joke. Ethan, this marriage has been a prison. Every single second I've spent with you has been torture. Then sign it, I said airily. What are you waiting for? At my words, her expression turned to ice. She snatched the pen and signed her name with a sharp, decisive stroke. She then threw the papers down in front of me. Ethan, you'd better remember this was your choice. Don't you dare regret it. The lawyer took the signed documents, ignoring the tension between us, and stated professionally, as per state law, there is a mandatory 1-month cooling-off period. After that, you can officially file for the divorce decree. You can withdraw the petition at any time within this month if either of you has a change of heart. Khloe scoffed, her eyes locking onto me with contempt. Withdraw it at any time? So that's your game. She spoke with absolute certainty, as if she had me all figured out. Ethan, if you actually go through with this in a month, I'll eat my hat. With that, she turned and walked away, her posture elegant and cold, utterly convinced I would cave at the last minute. I watched her go and let out a small, quiet laugh. You're wrong, Khloe. Not only am I going through with it, but when that month is up, I'm leaving this city and disappearing from your world for good. For the next few days, I tuned everything out and stayed home, packing my things. Meanwhile, Khloe was with Liam, endlessly posting about their sweet, romantic life together all over Facebook. They strolled along the beach, shared sweet kisses under the setting sun, had romantic candlelit dinners at exclusive restaurants overlooking the city, made wishes as fireworks lit up the sky, and went shopping hand in hand, picking out perfect clothes for each other. And every post was flooded with likes and comments. Khloe and Liam on another trip? You two are always in your honeymoon phase. You guys are so cute on Facebook. I don't even need to eat. I'm full just from watching you two. I bet a certain someone sees these posts and just seethes with jealousy. Too bad for him. He'll always be the pathetic one who can never win Khloe's heart. I knew Khloe was posting all of this just to get under my skin. In my last life, it worked. Every time I saw one of her posts, I'd be consumed by jealousy and heartache, lying awake all night. But now, seeing them, I felt nothing. My heart was dead to it all. I had already chosen to let go. Soon, Khloe and I would never have to see each other again. 3 days later, the Davis family held their scheduled family dinner. Normally, I would never attend, but this time I went. When I arrived at the mansion, the entire Davis family was gathered, the main hall buzzing with activity. Khloe was introducing Liam to the elders, and the children were all gathered around, calling them Uncle Liam and Aunt Khloe, both of them smiling and playing along. I watched from a distance, a bitter smile on my face. I was supposed to be Khloe's husband, but aside from her late grandfather, no one in the Davis family ever acknowledged me as such. They all believed I had stolen Liam's rightful place, so they always treated me with cold contempt. I usually didn't bother showing up to these gatherings to be humiliated, but coming here this time, I realized that behind my back, they were already living as one big, happy family. I pushed open the doors to the hall, and as everyone turned to see me, the smiles vanished from their faces. Khloe's parents glared at me, their voices dripping with disapproval. I thought you were divorcing, Khloe. What are you doing here? Liam looked right at me with a smirk, his tone dripping with sarcasm. It's not the first time he's pulled a stunt like this. There's always a lot of drama for nothing, and then he comes crawling back to Khloe, begging her to take him back. I'm sick of his games, but he never seems to get tired of them. Hearing this, Khloe frowned at me, her voice cold. We may still be in the cooling-off period, but the papers are signed. You're not part of the Davis family anymore. You have no right to be here. Khloe's relatives shot me looks of disgust, chiming in their agreement. If the old man hadn't forced the issue, Khloe never would have married him. Liam and Khloe were so in love, a perfect couple. He ruined a beautiful match. Exactly. Khloe never liked him, and he's always playing these manipulative games. His intentions are so vile, it's disgusting. Looking at this crowd of Davis family members, all staring at me with contempt and mockery. A chill went down my spine. I clenched my fists, trying to push down the wave of emotion rising in my chest, and scanned the room coldly. You don't have to do this. I'm not here for the dinner party. I have no interest in it. I came to pay my respects to Grandpa Davis, and then I'll leave. Hearing this, they had no reason to throw me out, so they reluctantly stepped aside with cold expressions. I went to the family chapel alone. After paying my respects, I placed the family heirloom he gave me at my wedding on top of his urn. Grandpa, I said, my voice so soft it barely disturbed the air, as if I were afraid of waking him. You once told me that if I married Khloe, I'd have someone by my side for the rest of my life. A bitter smile touched my lips. But you never told me that being tormented by the person you love is more painful than being alone. Khloe doesn't love me. To her, this marriage is nothing but a punishment. In my last life, Khloe threw me away. So in this life, I've decided to let her go. Don't worry about me. I have a long life ahead of me. This time, I'm going to be okay. I sat before his memorial for a long time, speaking my heart out, when I suddenly heard the sound of dress shoes on the stone floor behind me. I turned slowly to see Liam striding toward me. I couldn't be bothered with him and started to leave, but Liam sneered and snatched the heirloom from the urn. Before I could react, he grabbed Grandpa Davis's memorial plaque and slammed it onto the floor. With a loud crack, the wooden plaque shattered. I felt my blood run cold. I lunged forward and grabbed Liam's wrist. Are you insane? Apologize to him. Liam contemptuously shook my hand off. Apologize? To who? If it wasn't for that old meddler, I would have been in your place a long time ago. Liam, my voice shook. That was the grandfather Khloe respected more than anyone. If she knew you did this, she'd realize what a mistake she made with you. My rebuke didn't faze him in the slightest. In fact, he looked even more smug. Oh really? You respect her grandfather so much, but Khloe still doesn't give a damn about you. Does she? Ethan, you're just pathetic. A total simp. You should go cry to her about it. Every word he spoke was like fuel on the fire of my anger. But when he started insulting my mother, I couldn't take it anymore and threw a punch right at his face. The smile froze on Liam's face. He never thought I'd actually hit him. Humiliated like never before, his face went pale with rage, and he lunged at me like a wild animal, grabbing my collar as we started to brawl. But he was spoiled and soft, no match for me at all. Every time he tried to throw a punch, I slammed him back onto the ground. Furious and humiliated, Liam grabbed Grandpa Davis's urn and smashed it over my head. For a moment, the pain in my head was so intense I couldn't see. I collapsed to the floor as the ashes scattered around me, a desperate, agonized sound escaping my lips. The noise was so loud it quickly drew everyone from the main hall. When they saw the chaos, the shattered plaque and the spilled ashes, the color drained from their faces. Khloe's face was dark enough to curdle milk, her eyes as cold as ice. Ethan, what have you done now? This is a chapel. Is this how you pay respect to Grandpa? I was in too much pain to speak, but Liam, playing the victim, immediately started his story. Khloe, I saw the heirloom Ethan had and just wanted to take a look, but he just punched me. I tried to defend myself, and he started throwing Grandpa's urn and plaque at me. I just pushed him to get away, and somehow he ended up like this. After hearing his version of events, the Davis family all turned on me, their glares like daggers. In an instant, they were all shouting, cursing me, some even demanding the family discipline be brought out to punish my heinous actions. Khloe waved her hand, and a servant immediately brought forward the heavy leather strap used for family discipline. For disturbing the sanctity of this chapel, 1 offense. For desecrating an elder's memorial, a 2nd offense. For assaulting a guest without cause, a 3rd offense. He will be punished for all of them. Khloe, I shot my head up, my eyes blazing with fury. You won't even ask what, crack. Before I could finish, the first lash of the strap struck my back, cutting off my words. My whole body shuddered with pain, but I stubbornly gritted my teeth. It was Liam who, crack. The 2nd lash came right after. I struggled to get to my feet, but 2 security guards held me down by the shoulders. I screamed, my eyes bloodshot. Khloe, are you blind? It was him. 30 lashes. The man holding the strap called out. The leather bit into my back like a venomous snake. The pain was so intense my vision started to blur, but I kept my head up, glaring at Khloe. 45. I saw Khloe gently fixing Liam's tie, her touch so careful, as if he were some priceless treasure. That sight hurt more than any of the lashes, and I tasted blood in my mouth. 60. As the final blow landed, I couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed. Just before I lost consciousness, I heard Khloe's icy voice say, "Get him out of here. Don't let him dirty the floor." When I opened my eyes again, I was lying on the cold, king-sized bed in our mansion. Everything was quiet, but the searing pain in my back was a stark reminder that those 60 lashes weren't a nightmare. They were a punishment, delivered by Khloe herself. I tried to smile, but when I moved to sit up, the movement tore at the wounds. I sucked in a sharp breath, my eyes stinging. This was the woman I had loved for 20 years. I forced myself out of bed and shakily started to bandage my own back. I bit down hard on my lip as the antiseptic and gauze made contact with the raw wounds. By the time I finished, sweat had soaked through my shirt, leaving dark stains on the sheets. For the next week, I was confined to the bed. The wounds on my back had just begun to scab over, and the slightest movement would tear them open again. During that entire time, Khloe never once came to check on me. But Liam's messages kept coming, like a snake's taunting hiss. Khloe took me to an auction today and bought me the most expensive diamond watch there. See? The design is amazing, isn't it? In 2 days, it's our 6-year anniversary. She's planned a special yacht party to celebrate. Not only that, she even designed matching rings for us as a gift. I deleted the messages without a change in expression and quietly began to gather up everything that had to do with Khloe. The photos I'd secretly taken of her, the love letters from our youth she'd never opened, the white dress I'd bought her that she never wore. With a self-mocking smile, I packed it all into a box and threw it in the trash. Just then, the bedroom door swung open. Khloe walked in, just in time to see what I was throwing away. A cold look flashed in her eyes. Still playing these games, Ethan? You even timed it for when I got home. You really put a lot of thought into this, didn't you? I didn't look up, just kept tossing things. You'll find out if it's an act in 15 days. You've got it marked down, have you? She sneered. I bet you're counting down the days. I am. I finally looked up, a genuine smile spreading across my pale face for the first time in ages. I'm counting down every single day until I'm finally free of you. At my words, Khloe's face darkened instantly. She strode toward me, her eyes filled with contempt. Ethan, you really think I'm going to believe that? Believe what you want. I looked her straight in the eye, my voice quiet but firm. Khloe, this time, I'm really done with you. For some reason, the resolve in my eyes seemed to shake her. She was about to say something, but just then, a video call from Liam came through on her phone. Khloe stared at me for a long moment before deciding not to waste any more time on me and heading into the study. Once I finished packing everything, I grabbed my bag and left. Today was my birthday, and just like every year, a few of my best friends threw a party for me. Laughing and joking around with them, I started to forget all my recent troubles and found myself genuinely smiling. But the good mood didn't last. Just as we were about to cut the cake, the door to our private suite was thrown open. Khloe walked in, followed by Liam and a group of her girlfriends. One of her friends looked around the room with a mocking expression. Oh, is this a birthday party? So sorry, but we're taking over this room now. Could you all please get out? Faced with these intruders, I paused with my champagne glass halfway to my lips, my knuckles turning white. Seeing the undisguised malice on their faces, I knew they were here to cause trouble, determined to ruin my birthday. My friends knew it too, but they stood their ground to protect me. Let's get something straight. We booked this room first. If anyone's leaving, it's you. Seeing us talk back, the women laughed and slapped a contract down on the table. Take a good look. Khloe just bought this entire building. She can kick out whoever she wants. So if you know what's good for you, you'll leave on your own before you get thrown out like garbage. My friends were furious and about to argue back, but I quickly stopped them. I looked up at Khloe. A sale doesn't invalidate a prior booking. There are plenty of other empty rooms in this club. Khloe didn't say a word, but Liam spoke up. Sorry, Ethan. I just really like this particular room. He then took Khloe's arm. Khloe, I love the decor in here. Get rid of them. Without even looking up, Khloe said, clear the room. The moment the words left her mouth, her friends started wrecking the place. They stomped on the balloons my friends had carefully set up, trampled the flowers, and smashed the cake against the wall, smearing frosting all over a picture of me. Stop it. Khloe, are you insane? My friends were all shouting and cursing, and I finally snapped. I rushed forward to save the last remaining photo, but someone shoved me hard. In the chaos, I was bumped and stumbled right into Liam. Liam let out a theatrical scream. Khloe's eyes went cold as she pulled him behind her and gave me a violent shove. I lost my balance and crashed into the champagne tower beside me. Hundreds of glasses rained down on me. Cold champagne and blood soaked through my suit, and the pain of glass shards digging into my skin made everything go dark. Throw him out. Khloe's voice was like ice. 2 men grabbed me and dragged me outside, my body banging against the stairs. My vision blurred, and a ringing filled my ears. I don't know how much time had passed, but I woke up in a hospital. My friends were gathered around my bed, their eyes filled with anger and frustration. Ethan, are you seriously not going to divorce her? The way Khloe treated you on your birthday, that's not a wife, that's an enemy. You can't seriously want to stay with her after that. I looked down, unconsciously tracing the gauze on my arm. It still throbbed with a dull ache, just like my shattered heart. I'm not, I said, my voice tired. I've already filed. The cooling off period is over in about 2 weeks. Once the decree is final, I'll be free. Really? My friends all said at once, grabbing my hands excitedly. That's amazing. You finally came to your senses. You're tall, handsome, and you've given her everything for years, but she only has eyes for that loser Liam. She's completely blind. It's so good you're finally ending things with Khloe. I'm telling you, a guy like you can have any woman you want. After the divorce, I'll set you up with 100 gorgeous women, amazing bodies, beautiful faces. You can take your pick. They were joking around, not hearing the footsteps approaching the door. The door was suddenly pushed open, and as I looked up, my eyes met Khloe's cold, distant gaze. She scoffed. 100 gorgeous women? Really, Ethan? I was shocked to see her there, but I quickly composed myself. What's it to you? I never interfered when you went to see Liam, so whether I date other women, and how many, is none of your business. Khloe stared at me, a flicker of irritation in her eyes. You're right, it's none of my business. But I'd advise you to wait until the divorce is final. Otherwise, it's just trashy. I didn't back down, nodding in agreement. You're right, I'll wait until it's official. And you guys, I said to my friends, better have 7 beautiful women lined up for me, 1 for every day of the week. Seeing me call her bluff, a flash of anger crossed Khloe's face. She pulled out the asset division agreement my lawyer had sent her and threw it at me. Fine, I'll be waiting on divorce day. Let's see you show up with your 7 beautiful women to personally hand me the decree. With that, she turned and left without a backward glance. I watched her go, then picked up the agreement and checked it over. After confirming that half of all her assets were allocated to me, I neatly folded it and put it in my bag. After my friends left, I gave the thick pile of documents to my lawyer and had him liquidate everything. The real estate, the luxury cars, the yacht, the stocks. Watching the numbers in my bank account climb, my heart finally began to settle. With this money, I'd be set for the rest of my life. I spent the next few days recuperating in the hospital. The day I was discharged, I returned home alone to find Khloe and Liam kissing in the living room as if I wasn't even there. Under the warm glow of the lamp, Liam held Khloe in his arms, her long fingers gently stroking his cheek as they shared a deep, passionate kiss. That tender look was something she had never once given me in 12 years. Bang! I slammed the door shut, startling them out of their reverie. Khloe turned, and the softness in her eyes instantly turned to ice when she saw me. What is your problem now? I leaned against the doorframe, my nails digging into my palms, but my face held a mocking smile. This is disgusting to watch. Khloe sneered back. And what about the you who used to beg me for a kiss? Wasn't that even more disgusting? I gave a small laugh. Yeah, I must have been blind back then. I looked up, my gaze perfectly clear. But I can see perfectly now. I raised my hand and said, word by word, I, Ethan Miller, swear that if I ever love Khloe Davis again, may I die a terrible death. Khloe's pupils contracted, and her heart felt like it was caught in a vice. She never expected me to make such a solemn vow, and a wave of inexplicable anger surged through her. Khloe, Liam whined, tugging on her sleeve. I'm hungry. Khloe took a deep breath, pushing down the strange feeling in her chest, and gently ruffled Liam's hair. I'll go make you dinner. As she turned, she saw me heading upstairs without a backward glance, and the finality of my posture inexplicably irritated her. In the kitchen, she chopped vegetables distractedly, my words, may I die a terrible death, echoing in her mind as the sharp knife nearly sliced her finger. I didn't leave the house for the next several days. The day before the cooling-off period ended, my old high school class happened to be organizing a reunion. Figuring it might be the last chance I'd get, I decided to go. The moment I pushed open the door to the private room, I was hit by a wave of familiar laughter and chatter. Ethan, our old class president, spotted me first, standing up with a surprised smile. You finally made it. I smiled and nodded, and as soon as I took an empty seat, my old classmates crowded around. Ethan, I heard you married Khloe Davis. Is that for real? Weren't you two like oil and water back in high school? Yeah, you two were always at each other's throats. How did you suddenly end up married? It has to be a rumor, right? I unconsciously ran my finger along the rim of my glass, the cool sensation grounding me. I forced a calm smile. We did get married, but we're getting divorced now. My words fell like a stone into a quiet pond, and the entire room went silent. My classmates exchanged awkward glances, the smiles frozen on their faces. Someone cleared their throat, another pretended to be intensely interested in their drink. The air grew thick with tension. After a long moment, someone sighed. What a shame. They were the only couple from our class that actually got together. Another couldn't help but ask, why the sudden divorce? You were so into Khloe, weren't you? Maybe other people didn't see it, but I did. The only reason you were always fighting with her was to get her to notice you. Who says no one else saw it? I totally saw it. Me too. I was stunned. I never realized that my feelings, which I thought I'd hidden so well for so many years, had been so obvious to so many people. How could you guys tell? The question opened a floodgate of memories, and suddenly everyone was talking at once. Wasn't it obvious? Sophomore year, those guys who were jealous that Khloe was prom queen and valedictorian started spreading nasty rumors about her. When you heard, you went and punched every single one of them. You were terrifying. And that's not even the half of it. When your mom died, you were a complete mess. But the second you heard Khloe was in a car accident and needed blood, you ran to the hospital and donated so much you passed out. And remember on our senior trip, when Khloe dropped her camera in the lake, it had all her files for that big academic competition on it. You jumped into that freezing water without a second thought. It was the middle of winter. You ended up in the hospital with a fever for 2 weeks after that. Who would do that if they weren't completely in love? Hearing these long-buried memories being dredged up, my chest felt tight. All those feelings from my youth that I had tried so hard to forget were now flashing before my eyes like a movie reel. I gripped my glass, my knuckles white. My throat felt tight, like I couldn't get a single word out. "Excuse me," I said, getting up abruptly. "I need to use the restroom." I splashed some water on my face and headed back. As I reached for the door, I saw Khloe standing there, watching me with a complex expression. "Those things they were just saying," she asked, her voice low and resonant. "Was all of that true?" My heart seized, as if an invisible hand were crushing it. I forced a cold smile to my lips. "And what if it was? Does it matter? The person you love is Liam, isn't it?" Khloe's brow furrowed almost imperceptibly. I didn't wait for an answer, just brushed past her. I'd seen my old friends, and now that she was here, I had no desire to stay. After saying a quick goodbye to everyone, I left alone. But just as I stepped out of the hotel, Khloe's car pulled up right in front of me. The window rolled down, revealing her elegant profile. "Get in," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. "I need to talk to you." I silently opened the back door and got in. The car was filled with a faint, clean fragrance, a scent I had once been obsessed with. But now, smelling it again, I felt nothing at all. We were in the same car, but it felt like there was an invisible wall between us. For a long time, neither of us spoke. It wasn't until we reached our familiar gated community that Khloe finally broke the silence. "This divorce," she began, her long fingers tightening on the steering wheel. "How long are you going to drag this out?" For the first time, I heard a note of anxiety in her voice. I was taken aback for a second, then I scoffed. "What am I dragging out? Khloe, are you deaf?" "I'll say it again. I'm serious about." A shrill ringtone cut me off. Khloe answered the phone, and Liam's panicked, tearful voice filled the car. "Khloe, I'm at the Eclipse Lounge, room 1201. You have to come help me." The color drained from Khloe's face. She yanked the steering wheel, the tires screeching as she floored the accelerator. The car skidded to a stop in front of the lounge, and Khloe practically flew out of the door. I followed her up to the 12th floor, only to find a room elaborately decorated for a romantic confession. Rose petals covered the floor, and candles flickered everywhere. In the corner, Liam was backed against the wall, his expensive suit jacket crumpled. Standing before him was a woman in a long dress, a wild look in her eyes. A small knife in her hand glinted under the lights, and her voice was hoarse. "Liam, Khloe is married. She can't give you a future. I've loved you for so many years. Why won't you just give me a chance? If you don't say yes today, then we'll both die right here." When he saw Khloe in the doorway, Liam looked as if he'd been thrown a lifeline. "Khloe, you're finally here. This is Sarah Jennings. She's trying to force me to be her boyfriend, and she says she'll kill me if I refuse. You have to help me." The woman, Sarah, spun around. The moment she saw Khloe, her eyes widened and she became even more agitated. "Khloe Davis, don't you come any closer, or I swear I'll hurt you." Khloe wasn't afraid for herself, but she was terrified Sarah would hurt Liam. She held up her hands and took a few steps back, trying to keep her voice calm. "Sarah, I know you like Liam, but he doesn't feel the same way. You can't force him into a relationship like this. You'll never be happy." Hearing this, Sarah's eyes reddened, and her hand trembled as she pointed the knife past Khloe, toward me. Easy for you to say. You don't love Ethan, but you married him, didn't you? If you can stand being with him for the rest of your life, why can't Liam be with me? Khloe's expression hardened, her voice turning cold. It's because I know exactly what it's like to be married to someone you don't love that I'm telling you this. When it's the wrong person, every single second of marriage is a cage that you can never escape. Since you care about Liam, are you really going to force him into a miserable, loveless life just like mine? I stood in the shadows, my fingernails digging into my palms. I always knew she saw our marriage as a prison, but hearing her say out loud that every second with me was torture still felt like someone was carving a piece out of my heart. But her words had no effect on Sarah. Seeing that Liam still wouldn't give in, Sarah's eyes grew wild, her patience completely gone. I don't want to hear it. All I know is I want Liam. Liam, if you won't be with me, then we'll just die together. The knife glinted as Sarah lunged, stabbing straight at Liam. In a flash, Khloe threw herself in front of him without a second's hesitation. I watched the blade sink into her stomach, instantly staining the white dress I had ironed for her that morning. Khloe! Liam let out a blood-curdling scream. Khloe's face went pale, sweat beading on her forehead, but she kept a death grip on Sarah's wrist, her knuckles white with effort. Only when the police burst in and subdued Sarah did she finally collapse to her knees, still protectively shielding Liam behind her. Liam clutched her, sobbing. Khloe, don't die. Your divorce is final tomorrow. We can finally be together for real. Please, just hold on. Khloe managed a weak, sarcastic smile as she looked over at me. It's not happening. Ethan won't go through with it. This has all just been an act. She looked back at Liam. I love you. If I had another life, I would choose you. I wouldn't give in to my grandfather. I just stood there, watching them, biting my lips so hard I could taste blood. An act? An act? After everything, she still thought this was all an act. Khloe, you couldn't be more wrong. The light above the operating room finally went off at 3 in the morning. The doctor emerged, pulling off his mask. The wound wasn't too deep, and you got her here quickly, he said wearily. She'll make a full recovery with a month of rest. I stood at the end of the hall and watched Liam rush into her room. As I turned to leave, I heard Khloe's weak but tender voice call out his name. Liam. Back at the mansion, I stayed up all night. My suitcase lay open on the floor as I neatly packed away my belongings, one by one. At dawn, I took my packed bags to the county courthouse. Congratulations, you're free, the clerk said, handing me the divorce decree. I ran my thumb over the document. 12 years of obsession were finally over. I slipped the wedding ring from my finger and placed it in a small gift box along with the decree. The indentation on my finger was still visible, a faint mark, just like the one Khloe had left on my life. It was deep, but I knew that with time, it too would fade. In her hospital room, Khloe was propped up against the pillows, reading through some files. When I walked in, she didn't even look up, her expression one of smug certainty. What are you doing up so early? Did you go straight to the courthouse to withdraw the petition? She turned a page, her voice calm. Ethan, I'm telling you, my patience is wearing thin. Remember this. This is the last time I'm putting up with your games. I didn't say a word, just held the box out to her, my expression unreadable. You'll know if I'm playing games or not when you open this. Khloe finally looked up. She assumed it was a peace offering, but the moment her fingers touched the velvet box, an inexplicable shiver went through her. My gaze was too calm, so calm it was unnerving, like she was looking at a stranger. She looked deep into my eyes but couldn't find any of the old affection or warmth. A notification sound chimed as her phone screen lit up with Liam's face. I made your favorite soup. I'm on my way, wait for me. A small smile touched her lips, and the strange feeling from a moment ago vanished. If you're done with your little scene, you can go. I'm not interested in your gift. She tossed the box onto the nightstand with a thud. Liam will be here any minute, and he doesn't want to see you. I stood there, watching the sunlight filter through the blinds, casting a pattern of light and shadow across her face. The features that had once captivated me, that had filled my dreams, now stirred nothing in my heart. 12 years of devotion finally came to an end. Goodbye, Khloe. Take care of yourself. That was all I said. I left the hospital alone, took my last bag, and went straight to the airport. Before boarding the flight, I blocked Khloe on every social media platform. In this life, I would never love Khloe Davis again. From now on, our paths would never cross. Khloe spent 2 weeks recovering in the hospital. Liam was there every single day, rain or shine, tenderly taking care of her every need. But for some reason, she couldn't shake a feeling of emptiness, as if a piece of her was missing. After that day, I truly never appeared before her again. At first, Khloe didn't seem to care, but as the days passed, she grew restless. She found herself staring at the door to her room, as if waiting for someone to walk in. But the person she was waiting for never came. "Khloe, have some soup," Liam said. "I had my family's cook make it specially for you. It's good for your recovery." Liam scooped up a spoonful, blew on it gently until it was the right temperature, and brought it to her lips. She opened her mouth mechanically, her eyes still drifting toward the door. "Khloe, what are you looking at?" Liam asked, noticing her distraction. His smile faltered. "Or should I say, who are you waiting for?" They both knew exactly who he meant. "No one," Khloe said automatically, pulling her gaze away from the door, her voice flat, but Liam could see right through her. "Khloe, are you waiting for Ethan to visit?" Khloe frowned, instinctively defensive. "You're imagining things. Why would I be waiting for him? Really? I just think it's strange." Liam lowered his eyes, his voice soft but laced with poison. "Ethan knows you were hurt, but he hasn't visited once. He hasn't even called." Hearing this, Khloe's fingers tightened on the blanket. He was right. Why hadn't I? In the past, I would have been hovering over her if she so much as coughed. But now, she'd almost been killed, and all I did was drop off a box and disappear. Could it be that I really didn't care anymore? The thought made her inexplicably agitated. Seeing her expression, Liam quickly tried to comfort her. "Khloe, don't be upset. Ethan is probably just busy." Khloe scoffed. "Busy? Busy with what?" "Well, maybe." A calculating look flashed in Liam's eyes as he pretended to hesitate. "Maybe he's already found someone new. After all, didn't he say something about finding 7 beautiful women?" "Enough!" Khloe cut him off, her face dangerously dark. Liam was taken aback by her reaction. "I'm sorry, Khloe. I didn't mean anything by it. I just don't want to see you get hurt by him." Khloe took a deep breath, pushing down her irritation and forcing a smile. "It's my fault. It's fine. Let's not talk about him." But she couldn't stop seeing the look in my eyes as I walked away. So calm, so distant, as if we had never meant anything to each other. The day she was discharged from the hospital, Khloe seemed to be in a hurry. She rushed back to the mansion and pushed open the door. The house was dark and silent, with no sign of life. She frowned and called out instinctively, "Ethan!" There was no answer. She turned on the lights and saw that a thin layer of dust had settled on everything. It looked like I hadn't been home in a long time. Khloe walked into the living room, her eyes falling on a velvet box on the coffee table. It was the gift I had left for her. When she was being discharged, her assistant had asked if she wanted the box brought back with her things. She had been about to say no, but at the last second, she'd told the assistant to pack it. Now, as if compelled by some unseen force, she reached out and picked up the box. My words echoed in her mind. "You'll know if I'm playing games or not when you open this." The box was surprisingly light. She opened it slowly. Inside was a wedding ring and a divorce decree. Khloe's pupils contracted, her heart clenching painfully. What was this? She snatched up the decree. It was stamped with the official seal of the county court, dated the very day she had been injured. Khloe stared at the document, her fingers trembling uncontrollably. So Ethan hadn't been acting? He wasn't just playing games? Was he really, truly done with me? Khloe stood frozen in the entryway, clutching the divorce decree so tightly her knuckles were white. The official document gleamed under the light, the court's red seal like a searing brand, declaring their marriage officially over. She read it over and over, even wondering if I had somehow faked it. But the raised seal under her thumb felt undeniably real. All those years of emotion, could he really have let them go just like that? The thought echoed in her mind again and again. Khloe took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down. She immediately grabbed her phone and called her assistant, her voice sharp. "Find Ethan Miller's whereabouts. Now, flights, trains, hotel records, pull up everything you can find." The assistant had never heard Khloe sound so frantic and immediately got to work. But the reply that came back half an hour later sent a chill through Khloe's entire body. "Ms. Davis, Mr. Miller left the country on an international flight a month ago. The destination is unknown. All of his social media accounts have been deleted, and his phone number and domestic bank accounts have all been closed." Hearing this, Khloe's hand tightened around her phone, her knuckles turning white. She couldn't believe it. She hung up and ran upstairs. She threw open the bedroom door to find the room completely empty. The bed was perfectly made, without a single crease in the sheets. The closet was bare. All of my clothes were gone. My toiletries were gone from the bathroom counter. The only thing left was a single, solitary letter lying on the nightstand. The envelope simply said, "For Khloe." Her hands were shaking, a wave of panic threatening to overwhelm her. She tore open the envelope. Inside, there was only a single, short sentence. Khloe, I'm really gone this time. I wish you happiness. No anger, no regret, not even an explanation. Just like that, I had quietly walked out of her life. The door opened again, and a gust of wind sent the letter fluttering across the floor. Khloe, it was Liam. Liam calmly surveyed the room. He'd already realized downstairs that I was truly gone for good. He was ecstatic, his voice filled with excitement as he put his arm around Khloe. Khloe, this room gets the best light. We should make this our bedroom. He took her hand, a handsome smile on his face, his words barely concealing his impatience. He had been waiting for this day for a very long time. Khloe snapped back to reality. Seeing Liam's triumphant expression, she just gave a distracted her eyes drifting to the armchair by the window. That used to be my favorite spot. I loved to curl up there and read. In the afternoons, with the sheer curtains drawn, the soft sunlight would catch the tips of my hair, outlining them in gold. But now the chair was empty. Liam didn't notice her distraction. Taking her grunt as a yes, he had his bags moved in that same afternoon. He enthusiastically directed the staff to replace the curtains and furniture. The armchair was the first thing to go. He even had them replace the dinnerware I had so carefully chosen with a set that he preferred. This dinnerware is so dated. It doesn't suit you at all, he sneered, tossing the bone china plates I had collected into the trash. Watching them shatter, Khloe felt an unexpected pang in her chest. She remembered me holding up one of those plates, my eyes soft, saying, Khloe, look at this pattern. Doesn't it look like the ivy that grew on the back wall of our high school? And what had she said back then? That's stupid. And now, she didn't even have the chance to call me stupid anymore. Late that night, Khloe sat alone in the study, nursing a glass of whiskey. The alcohol burned her throat but did nothing to quell the strange restlessness in her heart. The mansion was full of life again now that Liam had moved in, but she still felt like something was missing. For so long, she had thought she hated me, hated my persistence, hated my very existence. But now that I was truly gone, she found herself actually missing me. She missed the black coffee I left on her desk every morning, always at the perfect temperature. She missed the blanket I would quietly drape over her shoulders when she was working late. She even missed the stubborn look in my eyes when we fought. The realization left a heavy feeling in her chest. And Liam? He was thoughtful and charming, but after he moved in, Khloe started to feel like his attentiveness was a carefully crafted performance. Every move a calculated play. Like right now, she stood at the window, watching him smiling as he directed the gardeners below, having them plant the expensive cedar trees he liked. At his feet lay the uprooted remains of the dogwood saplings I had planted, now trampled into the dirt. As if sensing her gaze, Liam looked up at her, his smile as handsome and perfect as ever, like it had been precisely calculated. She suddenly realized she might never have truly known him at all. The next day, while tidying the study, Khloe accidentally knocked over a stack of files. An old, worn notebook slid out from between them. She was confused. She didn't remember ever owning a notebook like this. Khloe bent down, picked it up, and opened it to the first page. Khloe skipped breakfast again today. I secretly slipped a sandwich into her desk. I hope she doesn't find out it was me. Khloe's breath caught in her throat. Was this Ethan's journal? Why hadn't he taken it with him? With trembling fingers, she kept reading. Khloe sprained her ankle in dance class. I secretly put some pain cream in her locker, but she caught me. She asked me with a straight face if it was some kind of prank. So I just said, yeah, I hope you end up with a limp. God, my heart was breaking for her. Mom's gone. Dad brought that woman and Liam into our house. I hid in my room and cried, and all I could think was, Khloe, can you please just give me a hug? Our first wedding anniversary. Khloe went to see Liam again. I threw the cake in the trash, but in the middle of the night, I fished it out and ate the whole thing myself. It tasted terrible. Page after page, Khloe's vision began to blur. The raw, sincere emotion in every word was overwhelming. It turned out that all this time, I had loved her so humbly, so stubbornly, in ways she never saw, and she had taken that love and crushed it under her heel. Khloe slammed the journal shut, grabbed her car keys and ran out the door. She had to get to the airport, check every flight. She would search the entire world if she had to, but she was going to find me. But as she reached her car, she stopped dead in her tracks. And what if she did find me? What would she say? That she was sorry? That she regretted it? Would I even believe her? The night wind rustled the leaves around her. Standing there in the empty driveway, Khloe suddenly realized that some things, once you lose them, are gone forever. Dejected, she went back inside to the study. She sat in the leather armchair by the window and opened the journal again, her fingertips trembling. Outside, The night was dark, and the glow from the desk lamp illuminated the yellowed pages. The faded ink seemed to travel through time, every word a needle piercing her heart. She turned page after page, each one holding my most private thoughts. A few guys in class were spreading rumors about Khloe again today, saying she only got elected student council president because her family is rich. I was so mad I started a fight with them. I got detention for it, but I don't regret it. Who the hell do they think they are, talking about her like that? Khloe's breath caught. She remembered that day. She'd seen me after school with a black eye, serving detention in the hallway, and she'd sneered at me. Fighting again, Ethan? Can you stop acting like such a delinquent all the time? And I had just looked at the floor and said nothing. It had been for her. Her throat tightened as she continued to read. Khloe was in a car accident. The hospital was short on her blood type. I went to donate, and the nurse said I was giving too much, that it was dangerous. But Khloe needed it, so I kept going until they had enough. I passed out. When I woke up, they told me she was out of danger. I was so relieved. Khloe's hand clenched, crumpling the page in her fist. The car accident. She remembered the doctor telling her when she woke up that a boy from her school had donated blood for her. But when she'd asked who, the doctor had just said it was a classmate who wanted to remain anonymous. It was me. I had nearly passed out for her, and I never even got a thank you. Her chest felt like it was being crushed, the pain so intense she could barely breathe. As she read on, the handwriting grew more and more frantic, as if my emotions were spiraling out of control as I wrote. Today is Christmas Eve, which is also Khloe's birthday. I secretly made her a lantern shaped like a rabbit. Took me a whole month, and my fingers are covered in splinters. But in the end, I couldn't bring myself to give it to her. She hates me so much, she'd probably just throw it away. Khloe slammed the journal shut, closing her eyes. The rabbit lantern. She remembered seeing it in a dusty box in the storage room. She had assumed it was an old toy one of the housekeeper's kids had left behind and had told them to throw it out. And now she knew. She knew whose work it had been. Khloe stood up and walked slowly to the window. Outside, the city lights glittered like a sea of stars, but her vision was blurring with tears. In her eyes, I had always been the arrogant, stubborn, annoying Ethan who wouldn't leave her alone. But the Ethan in the journal was humble, patient, and careful. Someone who loved her to his very core, but was too afraid to even say the words, "I love you." She thought back to the reunion, to what all her old classmates had said, and my reaction to just coldly deny it all and walk away. I hadn't wanted her to know because I knew that even if she did, it wouldn't have mattered to her. The realization sent a sharp, stabbing pain through Khloe's heart. Just outside the study, a figure stood silently in the hall. Through the crack in the door, Liam watched Khloe holding the journal, a dazed look on her face. His nails dug into his palms, a dark look in his eyes. How was it that Ethan was gone, but his ghost still lingered? The next morning at breakfast, Liam casually brought up, "Khloe, I was cleaning up yesterday and found a bunch of stuff Ethan left behind. Should I just toss it?" Khloe paused, the knife in her hand hovering over her steak. "Just leave it," she said coolly. "Don't touch his things." Liam's expression didn't change, but he let out a deliberate sigh. "All right, it's just Ethan is really something else. He's divorced, he took everything else, but he just happens to leave this one journal behind. It's almost like he wanted to make sure you knew just how much he loved you." Clang. Without a word, Khloe slammed her knife and fork down on her plate. She looked up, her eyes dangerously cold. "Liam, watch your mouth." Liam was taken aback by her glare, not expecting such a strong reaction. He forced a laugh. "Khloe, are you mad? I'm just being honest. He's obviously just trying to play the victim to make you feel sorry for him." "Play the victim?" Khloe sneered. "And where were you when he was getting into fights for me, giving me blood, jumping into a frozen lake for me?" Liam's face went pale. He probably made all of that up. You know how he is. He's a great actor. "Enough!" Khloe shot to her feet, her chair screeching against the floor. She looked down at Liam, her eyes ice cold, her voice a clear warning. "Liam, don't make me regret letting you move in here." With that, she turned and walked out, leaving Liam frozen in his seat, his face pale. Khloe stood in the garden, trying to keep the emotions churning inside her from boiling over. She had always seen me as the villain who stood between her and Liam, but now, Liam, her supposed true love, was eagerly tearing me down at the first opportunity. She suddenly realized she might have been completely, utterly wrong about everything. Khloe's gaze drifted to the horizon. "Ethan, where are you?" After that breakfast, a seed of doubt had been planted in Khloe's mind. Liam's malicious words about me had made her doubt him for the first time. The stories from the reunion echoed in her head, making Liam's dismissive comments sound even more jarring. What right did he have to say I was faking it? Khloe stood at her office window, unconsciously tracing the rim of her coffee mug, her expression unreadable. After a long moment, she picked up her phone and dialed her assistant. "Run a background check on Liam Carter," she said, her voice like ice. "I want to know everything he's been doing for the past few years." 3 days later, the assistant placed a thick file on Khloe's desk. The moment she opened it to the first page, her face clouded over. Her suspicions had been right. Liam was far worse than she had ever imagined. The report detailed years of his affairs with wealthy socialites, and even included evidence of him using her family's influence to sabotage business rivals behind her back. But the most shocking part was the pattern the file revealed. Every time things between me and her had gotten worse, it was right after Liam had intervened. In high school, we were just typical frenemies, but after Liam transferred to our school, I had suddenly become much more hostile toward her. In college, after her car accident, I had secretly donated blood for her. But the first thing Liam had told her when she woke up was, "Ethan doesn't care about you at all. He hasn't even come to see you." And after they were married, our fights had gotten worse and worse. Looking back now, she realized almost every single argument had been sparked by some offhand comment from Liam or one of his friends. Khloe's fingers clenched the report, her knuckles white. She was suddenly struck by an unbearable thought. Liam had been playing her for a fool for 10 years. If she was still in disbelief about Liam's actions, what happened next turned that disbelief into pure disgust. Her friend, Emily Vance, came to her with a troubled look on her face and handed her a flash drive. "Khloe, I ran into Liam at a bar the other night. I think you need to hear this." The recording started with the loud noise of a crowd, then quieted down. A moment later, a familiar voice began to speak. Liam sounded slightly drunk, laughing loudly with some friends in a VIP booth. Emily hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but Liam's loud, bragging tone was impossible to ignore. "Khloe Davis? She's nothing, just a pawn in my game." Liam swirled the drink in his glass, a smug smile on his face. Seeing the confused looks on his friends' faces, he scoffed. "You guys don't actually think I love her, do you? Don't make me laugh. If it wasn't for her money and power, who would bother putting on that devoted lover act for all these years?" His friends roared with laughter. Someone asked, "What about Ethan? I heard he was crazy in love with her." Liam sneered, his eyes full of contempt. "Ethan's even dumber. All those years of pathetic, groveling love, and in the end, he just ran away with his tail between his legs." He threw back his drink, the alcohol making him even more arrogant. "You know that incident in the family chapel? That idiot Khloe believes anything I tell her. She actually thought Ethan was the one who started it. The truth is, I smashed the plaque first, and that idiot Ethan actually tried to defend it. And what happened? Khloe herself gave him 60 lashes for it." Emily's face fell. She secretly recorded the rest of their conversation, then immediately left and called Khloe. After listening to the recording, Khloe felt like she'd been punched in the gut. Her mind went blank, and then came a tidal wave of pure rage. Her fingers dug into her phone, her knuckles white, her eyes burning with fury. "Liam Carter," she said, her voice a low growl, each word forced through gritted teeth. "So that was the truth of what had happened in the chapel. The 60 lashes I had endured were all because of Liam, and what enraged her most of all was that she had been his accomplice." Khloe remembered that day, remembered me collapsing in a pool of my own blood, remembered me trying to explain through the pain. My eyes read, Liam started it, but she had been so sure I was lying, trying to frame Liam, that she hadn't even given me a chance to speak. She had destroyed my love for her with her own 2 hands. Khloe shot to her feet and swept a bottle off the table, sending it crashing to the floor. A sharp pain shot through her hand as a shard of glass cut her finger, but she barely felt it. Compared to the pain in her heart, a small cut was nothing. That night, Khloe returned to the mansion with her security team and went straight to Liam's room. The moment he opened the door, before he could even smile, one of Khloe's bodyguards grabbed him by the throat and slammed him against the wall. "Liam," she said, her voice colder than the grave. Liam's eyes widened in terror, his face turning red as he gasped for air. As the grip tightened, his face began to turn purple. "Khloe, what are you doing? Tell him to let me go." Khloe sneered and signaled for the guard to release him. Then she played the recording. The color drained from Liam's face. "It's not what it sounds like. Let me explain. Someone set me up." He scrambled to grab her hand, but she violently shook him off. "Set you up?" Khloe's eyes were venomous. "And what about this?" She threw the investigation file in his face, pages scattering everywhere. "How are you going to explain this? Did someone set you up for this too?" Liam looked down at the papers, and all the strength went out of his legs. He collapsed to the floor. It was over. It was all over. Khloe looked down at him, her face a mask of cold fury. After a moment, she turned and walked away without another word. Liam was left trembling with fear and shock. The door slammed shut with a deafening bang. He flinched, tears streaming down his face, but his eyes were filled with a chilling, new hatred. Meanwhile, it was early morning in New York. Sunlight streamed through the windows of my apartment. I sat on the sofa by the window, holding a hot cup of coffee, a small puff of steam rising from the mug. Outside my window, the East River glittered, and in the distance, the Brooklyn Bridge was just visible through the morning haze. There was no Khloe here, no Liam, none of the suffocating memories of my past. There was only me. I took a sip of my coffee and smiled. So this is what freedom tasted like. In my 3rd month in New York, I enrolled in an advanced program at a design school. I'd always had a knack for drawing, and now, with a lifetime of repressed emotions finally finding an outlet, my work took on a unique style. Quickly caught the eye of one of my professors. "Ethan, your work has such life to it," my professor said, looking over my sketches with admiration. "Especially the cut of this dress. It's like a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis." I paused for a moment, then smiled. Yes, a metamorphosis. I had finally done it. I had finally broken free from the chrysalis that was Khloe Davis. With my professor's encouragement, I rented a small studio in Brooklyn Heights and started my own label. Meeting Isabella Reed was a complete accident. We met at a design showcase. She was an American whose family had built a high-end textile empire, and she was a well-known designer in her own right. She stopped at my booth that day and stood there for a long time before pointing to a deep red gown. "This dress?" she asked. "What was the inspiration?" I looked at the dress. It was one of the first pieces I had designed after arriving in New York. I'd been having sleepless nights, nearly drowning in the pain of my past. But I had channeled that pain into my work, and this dress was the result. It was the color of blood, but at the hem, I had embroidered golden butterflies, their wings poised for flight. "Metamorphosis," I said quietly. Isabella looked at me for a long moment, then smiled. "I'm Isabella Reed," she said, extending her hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Metamorphosis." After that, she became a regular at my studio. Sometimes she would bring me rare fabrics, other times she would just sit quietly and watch me sketch. She never asked about my past or overstepped any boundaries. She just slowly melted my defenses with her quiet, gentle presence. "Ethan," she said one evening, "there's an International Fashion Week next month. My label has a spot. Would you like to be a part of it?" I was stunned. It was the kind of opportunity most designers only dream of. I looked at her, and all I saw in her eyes was genuine admiration and encouragement. There was no pity, no ulterior motive, just pure faith in my talent. My eyes welled up. "Okay," I said. I threw myself into preparing for Fashion Week. The day before it started, I was on 5th Avenue looking for accessories when I ran into a familiar face. "Ethan?" he exclaimed, his eyes wide. I was taken aback for a second before I recognized him. "Leo? Oh my God, it really is you," Leo Thompson said, clapping me on the shoulder excitedly. "What are you doing in New York? You look." He looked me up and down, his eyes wide with surprise. I was a completely different person from the gloomy, quiet boy he remembered from high school. I was wearing a simple white shirt and jeans, and my face had a healthy glow. But the biggest change was in my eyes. The old pain and insecurity were gone, replaced by a calm confidence. "You look so different," Leo murmured. I smiled. "Yeah, I finally learned how to love myself." Leo's eyes welled up. "That's really great to hear." I patted him on the back. The sun was warm on our shoulders, and I felt a sense of peace. My collection was the finale of the show. The models walked the runway in my designs, the deep red silk flowing like liquid, the golden butterflies on the hems seeming to take flight under the lights. The applause was deafening. Isabella stood beside me and whispered, "See, you have them all captivated." I looked out at the runway, my eyes blurring slightly. In that moment, I wasn't Khloe's pathetic husband anymore, or a joke to Liam. I was just me, a new person who had finally found himself. Khloe stood at the window, staring out into the night. Liam came in. "Khloe," he said softly, an ingratiating smile on his face. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" Khloe didn't turn around, just murmured a quiet acknowledgement. Seeing her calm reaction, Liam moved closer, reaching for her hand, but she subtly pulled away. "Busy at work?" he asked, pulling his hand back, a flicker of unease in his eyes. Khloe finally turned to face him, a ghost of a smile on her lips. "A little." She reached up and gently stroked his cheek, her voice soft and cool. "What's wrong? Did you miss me?" Liam was stunned for a moment, then a look of pure joy spread across his face. She hadn't been this warm to him since their fight. He knew it. He knew Khloe couldn't stay mad at him forever. "Of course I missed you," he said, pulling her into an embrace, his voice sweet. "You've been ignoring me. I thought you were really mad at me." Khloe looked at him, her eyes like chips of ice, but her voice was as smooth and sweet as honey. "How could I be?" she murmured with a low laugh. "I was just preparing a special gift for you." Liam smiled, wrapping his arms around her waist. Their shadows stretched out on the floor, merging into one. A week later, Carter Enterprises was suddenly facing a massive cash flow crisis. Deals that had been finalized were suddenly canceled, bank loans were inexplicably delayed, and even their long-term suppliers cut them off without warning. Liam's father was in a panic, calling in every favor he had, but hitting a wall at every turn. "Who the hell is behind this?" he roared, slamming his fist on the table during a board meeting. Meanwhile, Khloe was sitting in her office, calmly reading the latest report from her assistant. Carter Enterprises stock had hit an all-time low, and 3 of their subsidiary companies were facing liquidation. A small smile played on her lips, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Good, but not good enough." She made a call, her voice calm and ruthless. "Keep the pressure on. I want the Carter family completely wiped out." How could he dare to play her for a fool and not expect to pay the price? Liam finally realized something was wrong. He called Khloe's phone countless times, but was always redirected to her assistant. He went to her office, but security wouldn't even let him in the building. "Sorry, Mr. Carter. Ms. Davis has given instructions that she is not seeing any visitors." Since when was he a visitor? Liam panicked. He finally understood that Khloe's sudden warmth had just been a ploy to make him let his guard down. He frantically scrolled through his contacts, trying to find anyone who could help him. But the same friends who had once fawned over him were now avoiding him like the plague. "Liam, it's not that I don't want to help, but Ms. Davis has made her position very clear. No one is going to cross her. Mr. Carter, there's really nothing I can do. You're on your own." In desperation, Liam went straight to Khloe's mansion and knelt on her doorstep, crying, "Khloe, I know I was wrong. Please spare my family. I'm begging you." The gates slowly swung open. Khloe stood at the top of the steps, looking down at him. "Khloe!" Liam scrambled forward and grabbed the hem of her pants, his face a mess of tears and dirt. "I really know I was wrong. I'll never lie to you again. Please, forgive me." Khloe slowly crouched down and tilted his chin up, forcing him to meet her gaze. "Liam," she asked softly, "do you know what my biggest regret is?" Liam shook his head, trembling. Khloe smiled, a smile that sent a chill down his spine. "My biggest regret is not seeing you for the snake you are much, much sooner." She let go of him and stood up, her voice like ice. "You made me lose the only person who ever truly loved me, and for that, I'm going to make you pay." Liam sat there, stunned, his face ashen. "You can't do this. Khloe, I love you. I really do." Khloe turned and walked away, her final words hanging in the air. "And that's a shame, because your love is worthless." A month later, Carter Enterprises officially declared bankruptcy. Liam's father was arrested for corporate fraud. Liam sold off all his luxury goods, but it wasn't nearly enough to cover the massive debts. He stood in front of his family's once magnificent mansion, watching as the bank put foreclosure notices on the doors, and finally fell to his knees in despair. Khloe stood at her window, a glass of whiskey in her hand. The amber liquid swirled in the glass. Outside, the city lights glittered and the traffic flowed endlessly, but inside her world, all the color had drained away. The Carter family was ruined. Liam was disgraced, drowning in debt, a social pariah. She should have felt satisfied. So why did she feel even emptier than before? She threw back the rest of her drink, the harsh liquor burning her throat, but doing nothing to warm the chill that had settled deep in her heart. In the boardroom of the Davis Corporation, the executives exchanged worried glances. At the head of the table, Khloe's hair was a mess, her eyes were bloodshot, and she tossed the file in her hand onto the table. "You're bringing this trivial nonsense to me?" she sneered, her voice hoarse. "What exactly do I pay you all for?" The boardroom was silent. No one dared to speak. It was the 3rd time this month Khloe had flown into a rage during a meeting. "Ever since I left, she had become a different person. She was drinking heavily, her temper was explosive, and she was neglecting her work. The company's stock was plummeting, and the shareholders were furious, but no one dared to confront her directly. Her assistant cautiously handed her a file. "Ms. Davis, these are the quarterly reports. They need your signature." Without even looking at them, Khloe grabbed a pen, scribbled her signature, and said, "Get out." The assistant fled as if she'd been granted a pardon. Alone in her office, Khloe opened a drawer and pulled out a photograph. It was our wedding picture. In the photo, I was wearing a white tuxedo, my smile bright and full of hope. She was stone-faced, as if the marriage was the greatest shame of her life. Looking at it now, she realized she was the one who had been the fool. Late one night, drunk, Khloe called the private investigator she had hired. "Did you find him?" she slurred, her voice raspy. There was a pause on the other end. "Ms. Davis, Mr. Miller's travel records have been intentionally wiped. We can't track his location." "Useless," Khloe screamed, throwing her phone against the wall, the screen shattering on impact. She staggered to her feet, grabbed her car keys and ran out. The apartment I had lived in before we were married was still in her name, empty. No one had dared to touch it. Khloe used her spare key to open the door, and the smell of dust and disuse filled the air. Nothing inside had been changed. The sweater I always wore was still draped over the back of the sofa. The design magazine I'd been reading was still on the coffee table. My favorite apron was still hanging on its hook in the kitchen. It was as if I had just stepped out and would be back any minute. Khloe's knees gave out, and she sank to the floor. A wave of alcohol and regret washed over her, and her vision blurred. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice choked with sobs. "I was wrong. Please, come back." In the empty apartment, only her own echo answered. At dawn, Khloe woke up on the cold floor. Her head was pounding from the alcohol, but her memories of the night before were painfully clear. Khloe slowly got to her feet, took one last look around the apartment full of memories, and gently closed the door. If she could find me, and if I would give her just one more chance, she would spend the rest of her life making it up to me. Winter in New York always arrives without warning. I pulled my wool scarf tighter, my breath fogging the window pane. The heat in my studio was broken. I rubbed my frozen fingers together and went back to sketching the designs for my new collection. After Fashion Week, my career had exploded. Invitations and collaboration offers were flooding my studio. I never seemed to have enough time anymore. I was bent over my drafting table, the only sound the scratching of my pencil on paper, when the doorbell suddenly rang. Surprise! Isabella stood in the doorway, snowflakes dusting the shoulders of her black coat, holding 2 steaming cups of coffee. The tip of her nose was red from the cold, and tiny droplets of melted snow clung to her eyelashes, sparkling like diamonds in the morning light. "I heard a certain designer was burning the midnight oil again," she said, handing me one of the cups, her fingers brushing against the back of my hand. "Double caramel, half and half." I was taken aback. That was an old habit from my school days, one that even Khloe had never remembered. As the cup warmed my hands, I noticed a lopsided butterfly drawn on the sleeve. "Did you draw this?" "You can't tell." Isabella leaned in closer, pointing. "Here are the wings, and here are the antennae." She was close, and I could smell the scent of pine and cold snow on her coat. I suddenly noticed a tiny mole on her right earlobe, hidden beneath her dark hair like a secret star. "Your coffee's getting cold," I said, quickly looking down and taking a sip. When I looked up again, she reached out and wiped a bit of foam from the corner of my mouth. Her warm thumb brushed my lip for just a second, and our eyes met. We both froze. Outside, the first snow of the winter began to fall silently. The night before the Spring Fashion Week show, a sudden thunderstorm rolled in. I was standing at the entrance to the convention center, wondering what to do, when a black umbrella appeared over my head. "I knew you'd forget your umbrella," Isabella said, her right shoulder already soaked. "Come on, my car is just across the street." The rain was running in rivers across the pavement, and Isabella picked her way carefully in her heels. Suddenly, her foot slipped, and she fell right into my arms. "Careful!" I caught her, one arm around her waist. The umbrella tilted, and cold rain splashed onto our sleeves. Through the damp fabric of her coat, I could feel the warmth of her body and the steady rhythm of her heart. Thump, thump. I wasn't sure if it was her heartbeat or mine that was racing. We both started to speak at the same time, then fell silent. Finally, Isabella broke the silence with a laugh. "Should we count to 3 and try that again?" In the rain, her eyes looked like wet obsidian. I suddenly thought of the design I had been working on the day before. On the lining of a dress, I had secretly embroidered half of a golden butterfly wing. "Isabella," I said softly, "after Fashion Week is over, let's go to Napa Valley." "Okay," she replied instantly. "I already checked. The vineyards will be beautiful next month." The rain began to let up, and a sliver of moonlight broke through the clouds. During Los Angeles Fashion Week, I practically lived in my studio. I survived on iced coffee, and predictably, ended up with a raging fever. In my hotel room, I vaguely felt someone gently supporting my head as warm medicine trickled down my throat. Isabella? What time is it? 3 in the morning. Isabella's voice was hoarse. Do you have any idea you're running a 102-degree fever? I managed to open my eyes and saw her in a wrinkled dress, with dark circles under her eyes. The nightstand was littered with medicine boxes and cold compresses. You haven't slept? A certain patient keeps kicking off his blankets, she said, wiping my sweaty forehead with a cool cloth, and he wouldn't stop talking in his sleep while clinging to my arm. I was suddenly wide awake. I was talking in my sleep? Isabella suddenly leaned in, so close I could count her eyelashes. Ethan, she said, looking seriously into my eyes, I tested a theory. Cursing out your ex does, in fact, help break a fever. Your temperature actually went down a little after the 7th time you did it. I burst out laughing, but my laughter quickly died down, and my eyes started to burn. Isabella gently pulled me into a hug, resting her chin on my shoulder. It's okay for men to cry, you know. Go ahead. I've got plenty of dresses. The California sun in Napa Valley was brilliant. Isabella stood in the middle of a vineyard, watching as a group of local kids tried to teach me how to weave a crown out of wildflowers. I was clumsy and kept breaking the stems, so I finally just bribed them with candy, which made them all laugh. Miss Designer, I said, walking over to her with my hands behind my back. Close your eyes. The moment she closed her eyes, she felt me place something gently in her hair. Okay, you can open them. I held up my phone so she could see the crooked wildflower crown I tucked behind her ear. It's hideous, she laughed, reaching up to take it off, but I caught her wrist. Wait, I pulled a small box from my pocket and opened it to reveal a delicate bracelet. The inside of the clasp was engraved with a single word, rebirth. Isabella held out her wrist for me to put it on her. In the distance, we could hear the children laughing as the rows of grapevines swayed in the breeze. I stood at the window of my studio, holding a gold-embossed invitation. Aura, one of the top jewelry brands in the country, was inviting me to be the artistic director for their new collection. Isabella came in holding 2 cups of coffee. Seeing me staring into space, she asked softly, "Still thinking about it?" I snapped out of it, my fingers tracing the edge of the invitation. I never thought I'd go back. Isabella handed me a coffee, the warmth of the cup spreading through my hands. Are you afraid of seeing her? I was quiet for a moment, then I smiled. No, I said, shaking my head. I was just wondering what, exactly, I have to be afraid of anymore. Outside, the wind caught a leaf and sent it spinning onto the windowsill. When I looked up again, my eyes were clear and determined. I couldn't hide forever. When the plane landed in my old city, I felt a moment of disorientation. 3 years had passed. The airport looked the same, but I was a completely different person. Mr. Miller, an assistant from the company, greeted me warmly. Welcome back. The director wanted me to take you to your hotel to get settled in. We can discuss the details of the collaboration tomorrow. I smiled and nodded, following him to the car. The city flashed by outside the window, familiar storefronts and buildings blurring past. This place had once held all of my love and all of my pain, but now it felt like a closed book, its pages holding no power over me. When Khloe heard I was back in the country, she was in the middle of a meeting. Her assistant rushed in and whispered something in her ear. Her pupils contracted, and the pen in her hand clattered onto the documents in front of her, leaving a small spatter of ink. Are you sure it was him? She asked, her voice raspy. Her assistant nodded. The car Aura sent to pick him up was parked right outside our building. A lot of people saw him. Khloe shot to her feet, and the boardroom fell silent. Meeting adjourned, she said, and ran out of the room. Khloe sped across town, screeching to a halt in front of the Aura headquarters. Just as she got out of her car, she saw a familiar figure walking out of the revolving doors. It was me. I was wearing a simple, elegant white suit that made me look tall and confident. I looked calm, self-assured, and completely out of her reach. Khloe's breath caught in her throat. She started to move toward me, but another woman stepped into her path. The 2 women locked eyes, and the air between them crackled with tension. Get out of my way, Khloe said, her voice like ice. Isabella didn't move. He doesn't want to see you. Khloe's fists clenched, her eyes turning red. And who the hell are you to stop me? Isabella sneered back. And who are you? The woman who broke him? What right do you have to even be near him? The words were like a knife twisting in Khloe's heart. Her fists clenched so tight her knuckles cracked, but she had no response. From across the street, I seemed to sense the commotion and turned to look in their direction. Khloe's breath caught in her throat. I was looking at her, but a second later, my gaze shifted away, as if she were just another stranger on the street. I got into the waiting car, and it pulled away from the curb. Khloe stood frozen, a chill spreading through her. I didn't even hate her enough to look at her. Khloe, Isabella's voice snapped her back to reality. If you have any decency at all, you'll leave him alone. Khloe glared at her, her eyes red. And who are you supposed to be? His new girlfriend. Who I am doesn't matter, Isabella said calmly. What matters is that he's happy now. Without you in his life, he's finally learned how to love himself. As night fell, Khloe found herself standing outside my old apartment building. The third-floor window was dark. There was no light left on for her anymore. Finally, she slumped against the wall, staring up at that dark window. Ethan, she whispered, but the wind carried her voice away. Khloe stood in the corner of the hotel lobby, her knuckles white. For 3 days, she had been frantically tracking my schedule, and had finally learned I would be attending a private dinner here tonight. She didn't know why she was here. Maybe it was pride, or maybe it was because she couldn't stand the thought of me being completely out of her life. The elevator doors chimed open, and I walked out, holding Isabella's hand. I was wearing a dark, tailored suit, a diamond pin glittering on my lapel, a slight smile on my face. I looked handsome, happy, and a million miles away. A sharp pain shot through Khloe's chest. She took a deep breath and walked toward me. Ethan, I stopped. I turned slowly, my eyes landing on her face. A flicker of surprise crossed my features before being replaced by a calm neutrality. Ms. Davis, I said with a slight nod, my tone the polite, distant one I would use with a business acquaintance. Khloe's throat felt tight. She took a step forward, reaching out her hand. Isabella frowned and instinctively moved to stand between us. But I gently patted her hand. Isabella, could you wait for me in the car? She looked like she wanted to argue, but after a look at my calm expression, she just nodded and walked away. We were the only two left in that part of the lobby, and an awkward silence stretched between us. Ethan, Khloe said, her voice hoarse, I need to talk to you. I watched her, my expression as calm and unreadable as still water. Go on. Khloe's fingertips trembled. She had played this moment out in her mind 1,000 times, but now that I was actually standing in front of her, she didn't know where to begin. I'm sorry, she finally said, her voice thick with a choked sob, for what happened in the chapel, for my birthday, for the divorce, for everything. I am so sorry. Her knees hit the hard marble floor with a thud. Please, forgive me. The lobby fell silent as dozens of eyes turned to stare at us. The powerful CEO of the Davis Corporation, kneeling on the floor before a man, utterly humbled. I looked down at her, my expression unmoved. Khloe, I said softly, some things can't be undone, no matter how sorry you are. She looked up, her eyes red and pleading. Is there really no chance for us? Her voice trembled, as if she were clinging to the last shred of hope. I just looked at her for a moment, and then I smiled. It was a faint, distant smile, but for Khloe, it was like a knife to the heart, because she could see in my eyes that there was nothing left for her there. There's no place for you in my future anymore. I turned to leave, but she lunged forward, grabbing my wrist. Ethan, she pleaded, please, give me one more chance. Just one. I stopped, but I didn't pull away or turn around. You know, I used to believe that if I just loved you enough, if I gave you everything I had, that one day you would finally see me. But then I realized, I said, slowly pulling my hand from her grasp, that's not how love works. Khloe remained kneeling on the floor, watching as I walked away, my back growing smaller and smaller. Her fingertips still felt the warmth from my wrist, but her heart was frozen solid. Outside, Isabella and I got into the car. Just as I ducked inside, a single sycamore leaf drifted down and landed on the window. Khloe suddenly remembered something from years ago, back when I was just a troublemaking kid. I had snuck a sandwich into her desk, and when she caught me, I had turned bright red and stammered, "It's not like I care about you. I just need someone to fight with, and you can't do that if you starve to death." If only time could turn back. If only she had understood her own heart sooner. But there are no if-onlys in this world. The black car pulled away from the curb and disappeared into the night. On a rainy autumn night, Liam Carter was curled up on the bed of a cheap motel. The glow of his phone screen lit up his gaunt face as news alerts popped up one after another. Carter Enterprises officially declares bankruptcy, billions in debt. CEO of Carter Enterprises arrested for fraud, faces minimum of 10 years. Liam hurled his phone against the wall, the sound of shattering glass echoing in the silent room. He hugged his knees and sobbed, his expensive silk pajamas now a wrinkled mess. The $1 million watch that had once adorned his wrist was long gone. 3 months ago, he had been the heir to a fortune. Now, he could barely afford this dingy motel room. The next morning, Liam stood in front of the mirror, carefully trying to conceal the haggard look on his face. He was going to see Khloe, the woman who had once doted on him, who had spent a fortune on him. If he could just get her to feel sorry for him, he could turn things around. He put on his one remaining decent suit and went to the Davis Corporation headquarters. The security guard at the front desk recognized him and immediately blocked his path. "Mr. Carter, Ms. Davis has given explicit instructions that she will not see you." Liam forced a smile. "Just tell her I have important information. It's about Ethan." The guard hesitated for a moment, then picked up the phone. 5 minutes later, Liam was escorted to the top-floor office. Khloe stood at the window, her back to the door. She didn't turn around when he entered. "Khloe," Liam began, his eyes already welling with tears, his voice choked. "I was wrong. I really know I was wrong." He stumbled toward her, reaching for her arm, but she moved away. "You said you had information about Ethan. What is it?" Her voice was like ice. Liam collapsed to the floor, looking up at her with tears streaming down his face. "None of it was my fault. They made me do it. Khloe, you have to believe me. I've only ever loved you." Khloe finally turned to face him, looking down at him from her full height. Her gaze sent a chill through him. There was none of the old affection in her eyes, only cold, hard disgust. "Liam," she said with a small, humorless laugh, "do you have any idea how pathetic you look right now? It's disgusting." "No, it's not like that," he said, shaking his head frantically. "It's Ethan. He must have been spreading lies about me." "Khloe, don't you remember what we had?" "Shut up." Khloe's hand shot out, grabbing his chin in a painful grip. "Don't you dare say his name." She pulled a stack of photos from her desk drawer and threw them in his face. The photos scattered across the floor, all of them showing him in compromising positions with various other women, dated over a span of several years. "Did someone force you to do this too?" Khloe's look of pure loathing made him tremble. After that night, Liam hit rock bottom. With no other options, he found himself in a seedy underground club. The manager, a woman with tired eyes, looked him up and down. "You ever done this kind of work before?" Liam clutched the fabric of his shirt, his nails digging into his palms. "No, but I'm a fast learner." The manager scoffed and tossed him a revealing outfit. "Change into this. You're on tonight." With trembling hands, Liam took the clothes and went into the dressing room. He looked at his reflection in the mirror, at his pale, drawn face and the dark circles under his eyes. All the polished good looks were gone. At 3 in the morning, in a smoke-filled private room at the club, Liam was being groped by a large, middle-aged woman. Her alcohol-soaked breath was hot on his neck. "I hear you used to be some rich kid," the woman said with a greasy smile. "So tell me, what's your price?" Liam fought back a wave of nausea and forced a smile. "You're too kind, Ms. Warren." The woman's expression suddenly soured, and she slapped him hard across the face. His head snapped to the side and he tasted blood. In the shadows, where no one could see, his expression twisted into a mask of pure hatred. If Khloe hadn't been so ruthless, he wouldn't be here. Meanwhile, in the boardroom of the Davis Corporation, the silence was deafening. The shareholders sat with grim faces, the reports in their hands crumpled into tight balls. "Ms. Davis, the quarterly reports show a net loss of $3.7 billion. If this continues, then let it go bankrupt," Khloe said, leaning back in her chair and staring at the ceiling, her voice detached, as if she were talking about some other company. The boardroom erupted in chaos. "Are you insane? This was your grandfather's life's work. Khloe, are you really going to destroy this entire company over a man?" Khloe slowly rose to her feet. Her expensive dress hung on her frame, and she looked like a shadow of her former self. Without a word, she turned and walked out of the room. Behind her, she heard a cup shatter against the floor and the sound of angry shouting, but it was all just noise to her. Her world had already gone silent. Late that night, Khloe drove alone to the river. With the windows down, the cold wind whipped through her hair. On the passenger seat beside her was a manila envelope filled with clippings of all my recent work. From New York Fashion Week to the Aura jewelry launch, she had collected every single one. With a trembling finger, she traced my face in the photos. In every single one, I was smiling, happy. I was doing just fine without her. Khloe pulled out her phone and opened my Instagram page. The most recent post was from 3 days ago. "The new collection, Rebirth, is launching soon. Thank you to everyone who has supported me." The photo was of me and Isabella, standing by the East River, our hands intertwined. Khloe's vision blurred. She slowly pressed down on the accelerator, the needle on the speedometer climbing higher and higher. The moonlight glittered on the surface of the river, like the beading on her wedding dress. "Ethan," she whispered, letting go of the steering wheel. "If there's a next life." The car shot forward like an arrow, crashing through the guardrail and plunging into the icy river below. We interrupt this program with breaking news. Early this morning, a black sedan went into the Hudson River. Recovery efforts are currently underway. The vehicle is registered to Khloe Davis, CEO of the Davis Corporation. In a basement apartment across town, Liam stared at the news on his phone and let out a wild, crazed laugh. "She's dead. She's really dead." He laughed so hard that tears streamed down his face, smearing his heavy makeup. On the table lay a knife he had never had the chance to use. He hadn't gotten to kill her himself, but it didn't matter. She was in hell now, and that was enough. Liam grabbed a bottle and took a long swallow, then choked and started coughing violently. Detective Miller stared at the autopsy report, his brow furrowed. "The cut on the brake line is clean. It was severed intentionally," the medical examiner said, pointing to a photo. "This wasn't an accident. It was murder." Security footage quickly identified a suspect. 3 days before the crash, Liam had been seen in the parking garage of Khloe's building. He was wearing a baseball cap and carrying a tool bag, and he had spent a long time loitering near her car. When the police burst into the dingy basement apartment, Liam was laughing maniacally at the financial news on TV. The screen was reporting on the final liquidation of the Davis Corporation's assets. "You're just in time," he said, waving a pair of scissors wildly. "Look, I'm cutting up Ethan's wedding photos." The bed was covered in magazine clippings of me, each one stabbed and slashed to pieces. In the courtroom, Liam stood in an orange jumpsuit, traces of brake fluid still visible under his fingernails. "I was going to kill her myself," he said with a small, chilling smile. "It's a shame she died so soon." When the judge read the verdict, the courtroom gallery was empty. The relatives who had once flocked to the Davis family, the society friends who had once surrounded Liam, were all gone. The gavel fell, and Liam suddenly lunged at the railing. "Where's Ethan? Tell him to come here and laugh at me." The only answer was the cold click of handcuffs. The refrigerators in the city morgue hummed. A clerk called the Davis family estate for the third time. Finally, a distant cousin answered. "Do whatever you want with the body. As far as this family is concerned, she doesn't exist." The notification was forwarded to my address in New York, but Isabella returned it, unopened. On the final day, in a light drizzle, an intern at the funeral home pushed a gurney down a long, sterile hallway. A pale wrist was visible from beneath the white sheet. "It's a shame," the intern said to the crematorium operator. "I heard she used to be someone really important." The operator pushed a button. "Doesn't matter who you are. In the end, everyone turns to ash." At a natural burial ground in the hills outside the city, a worker mixed her ashes with wildflower seeds and scattered them to the wind. 3 months later, it was New York Fashion Week. My new collection, Phoenix, was the finale of the show. The models wore gowns the color of fire, and at the hem of each, a phoenix embroidered in gold thread looked ready to take flight. At the end of the show, the entire audience gave a standing ovation. Backstage, Isabella pinned a brooch to my lapel. It was one half of a golden butterfly's wing. "I have the other half," she whispered. "Together, they make a whole." The sycamore trees along the East River were sprouting new green leaves. Sunlight filtered through the branches, dappling the pavement with light. I was standing on the terrace of my studio, holding a cup of tea and looking out at the glittering river. I heard familiar footsteps behind me, and a soft cashmere shawl was draped over my shoulders. "What are you thinking about?" Isabella asked, coming to stand beside me, her voice as gentle as a spring breeze. "I was just thinking about the first time we met," I said. "You asked me about the inspiration for that red dress." Isabella raised an eyebrow. "Metamorphosis." "Yeah," I said, looking out at the distant shape of the Brooklyn Bridge. "Looking back, I think maybe even then you already knew." Before I could finish my thought, Isabella pulled out a small velvet box. A diamond ring glittered in her palm. "Ethan," she said, her voice a little thick, "I'm not very good with words, but I want to spend the rest of my life showing you that every second of your future deserves to be filled with love." The diamond on the ring caught the light, sending out brilliant flashes. I realized then that true happiness isn't about grand gestures. It's about finding the right person and a love that's true. I held out my hand as a tear fell onto the diamond. Yes, we were married in Brooklyn Heights. It wasn't a big, extravagant affair, just our closest friends and family. I wore a suit I had designed myself, with golden butterflies embroidered on the lapels that seemed to flutter in the sunlight. Isabella stood under a sycamore tree, a single green leaf resting on her shoulder. When it was time to exchange rings, her hand was shaking so badly she almost dropped mine. The guests laughed good-naturedly, but I just pulled her into my arms and kissed her. "Don't be nervous," I whispered with a wink. We have the rest of our lives for you to get used to this. A single sycamore leaf drifted down on the breeze and landed right on our marriage certificate, like a seal of approval from fate itself. One night, working late in my studio, I fell asleep at my drafting table. I woke up to find a blanket draped over my shoulders. Isabella was sitting across from me, reading over a contract. She heard me stir and looked up, her eyes smiling at me from behind her glasses. "You're awake? Let's go home." I rubbed my eyes, then suddenly grabbed a pencil and began to sketch furiously. A moment later, a design for a new dress was on the page, with half of a golden butterfly artfully embroidered at the collar. "Your birthday present," I said, smiling as I pushed the sketch toward her. "The other half will be on the suit I'm wearing at the show tomorrow." Isabella just looked at me for a long moment, then came around the table and wrapped her arms around me. "Mr. Designer," she said, looking up at me, "are you trying to announce to all of New York that I'm yours?" Outside, the faint sound of music drifted up from a boat on the river. The happiness I felt in that moment was enough to wash away all the pain of my past.